How did a small group of 13 lonely colonies on the edge of a massive ocean turn into one of the most powerful nations on Earth in just a few hundred years? It is a story full of dramatic fights, big ideas, and moments that completely changed the shape of the modern world. If you are learning about this story for the very first time, it can seem like a lot to take in. But at its heart, the history of the United States is about people trying to build something completely new from scratch, often facing massive struggles along the way. Let us look at how it all began. Long before any European ships arrived, millions of indigenous people lived across the land. They belonged to hundreds of different tribes, each with its own language, culture, and way of life. Then, in the late 1500s and 1600s, people from European countries like Spain, France, and England started sailing across the Atlantic Ocean. They built small towns along the coast. The English eventually set up 13 distinct colonies. Life was tough, but these towns grew quickly as more people arrived looking for land, new opportunities, or the freedom to practice their religion without fear. For a long time, these colonies were ruled by the King of Great Britain, who lived thousands of miles away. But in the 1700s, the king started demanding that the colonists pay heavy taxes on everyday items like tea and paper. The colonists grew angry because they had no say in the British government. They famously said that taxation without representation was completely unfair. Tensions got worse and worse until war finally broke out. In 1776, leaders from the colonies met and signed a famous paper called the Declaration of Independence. They chose a general named George Washington to lead their army. And against all odds, they won the war and became a free country. After winning their freedom, the leaders had to figure out how to run a country. They wrote the Constitution, which created a system where the people choose their own leaders instead of being ruled by a king. George Washington became the very first president. Soon, the new nation started growing rapidly. Millions of immigrants from Europe began arriving, and the country bought or fought for more land, pushing its borders further and further west all the way to the Pacific Ocean. But this rapid growth had a dark side. As the country expanded west, the government forced the Native American tribes off their ancestral lands, causing massive suffering. At the same time, the nation became deeply divided over a terrible issue. The states in the South relied heavily on the labor of millions of enslaved African people to grow crops like cotton. The states in the North did not allow slavery and wanted to stop it from spreading. This massive disagreement exploded into a terrible conflict called the American Civil War in 1861. It was the deadliest war in the nation's history, pitting Americans against Americans. Under President Abraham Lincoln, the North won the war. The country stayed together, and slavery was finally ended forever. If you want more fact videos in easy-to-understand English, subscribe below. After healing from the Civil War, the country entered a time of massive industry and invention. Factories popped up everywhere, skyscrapers began filling the city skylines, and railways connected the coasts. By the early 1900s, the United States had become an economic powerhouse. This wealth and power drew the country into global events. When World War I and World War II broke out in Europe, the United States eventually joined the fights, helping to defeat powerful dictators and cement its position as a global leader. The decades after World War II were marked by a different kind of struggle. Even though slavery had ended a century earlier, Black Americans still faced intense discrimination and unfair laws, especially in the South. In the 1950s and 1960s, a massive movement for civil rights began. Brave leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. led peaceful protests, marches, and speeches, demanding equal rights for everyone. Their hard work changed the laws, making the country a much fairer place. Though the journey toward true equality is still continuing today. During this same time, the country was locked in a tense rivalry with the Soviet Union, which people called the Cold War. It was a race for global influence, technology, and space. This rivalry led to one of humanity's greatest achievements in 1969, when American astronauts became the first humans to ever walk on the moon. In the modern era, the story of this nation has been shaped by the rise of computers, the internet, and cultural shifts that affect the entire planet. From a few fragile colonies to a global superpower, the journey has been full of incredible triumphs and deep challenges. It is a continuous experiment in freedom and democracy, and its history is still being written every single day. Thanks for watching.